Good evening, friends. How's everybody doing? Happy Thursday. Not Wednesday, but Thursday. Hello, 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 hello. How's everybody doing tonight? I see some peeps are in the house already. Hello, Kiba. Hello, Scott. Hello, Christian. Hello, Jackie. Hope everybody's doing well. So first of all, thank you everybody for being here. This is Achieving Wellness. I want to talk about feeling isolated. And I confess that this is a topic that I've wanted to cover for a really, really long time. It's a topic that is very, I want to say like near and dear to my heart. Because like I live it every day. And so it took me a while to build up the courage to be able to have this conversation. And so here we are, and this is what we're going to be doing. So I'm doing okay, Kristen. Thank you so much for asking. And I'm sorry that you're feeling a bit anxious. Let me know if there's something that I can do to help. We can always do some tapping to start if we feel it might be necessary. Maybe grab yourself some hematite or some labradite and give that a rub if you have a crystal nearby. It might help to calm you down a wee bit. So, hey, Jackie. So, feeling isolated. There are so many ways to break this topic down. It can be a little bit overwhelming. And so I don't want to try to overwhelm anyone. I don't want to trigger anyone. I want to talk about this in a way that is positive and is hopefully going to assist myself as well as others. So, of course, we have to do all the YouTube-y things first and foremost. Please don't forget to like, share, subscribe, hit the thumbs up, all that good stuff. If anybody wants to make a donation to the channel, anybody wants to book a private reading with me, anybody wants to connect with me on Instagram or Facebook, all of that good stuff, all that good information is in the description box below the video. And of course, this is for entertainment purposes only. So, oh, good. You have some labradite? Yeah, try using that, love. Try just giving it a wee rub and see if that helps a bit. Hey, Teresa. How are you doing, love? Hi, Jeannie. I started a few moments early. Nothing serious. You haven't missed anything important. Okay. So, feeling isolated. Let me start with this. We all, every single one of us, have experienced moments in our life where we have felt isolated, whether it is isolated from our family, isolated from friends, isolated from, the cool kids at school, isolated because you felt different, you thought that you were going to be made fun of, or maybe you were bullied. There's that type of isolation, which is a valid form of isolation. And then there is literally isolating yourself. So physically removing yourself from somewhere or from something, or sometimes both. I have done both of those things. when the pandemic started and everybody started to say that, oh gosh, being locked up in my house is too much. For anyone that remembers or saw when I was on with Allie at Heart and Soul Connected and I was telling my story, that's what made me actually feel normal. Because all of a sudden, everybody was doing what I had already been doing, and then there was like no more judgment on Kelly, if that makes sense. Hey Ron, how you doing, love? Good to see you. Hi Bora Bora. Hi Linda. Now, when I say that, I mean that in every possible sense of the word. That is not me stretching something out. That's not me making, it's not like the fish story, where it starts out this big and by the end it's this big. That is not what I mean. In the year of 2022, we are sitting currently at July the 7th. And I apologize in advance if this makes me emotional, but it is an emotional topic for me. But as I said in the beginning, I want to go there because I think it's important. And I hope that maybe it helps somebody. I haven't left my house in the year 2022. I've been to my car. I think I went to the park twice. I have not been in a store or a restaurant. Have not been seen in public other than possibly by my neighbor. And even where that's concerned, that is limited. So when I talk about the feeling of being isolated, and you've all heard me tell the story where I went out on my front porch last year and I sort of had this, moment where I was like, oh my God, I did this to myself. This is a big part of what I was referring to. I have created this bubble of safety around myself that allowed me to feel safe and secure. And, people weren't judging me. People weren't pointing fingers at me. People weren't looking at me funny. I felt safe that I wasn't going to have a panic attack or something of that nature. By creating that safety bubble around myself, I actually ended up hurting myself in the long run. And taking that first step out is really, really difficult. And so that's why this topic is, near and dear to my heart. It's important for me to, if I can say anything that will stop anyone from doing that to themselves, then it's well worth any kind of trigger that this might have, right? Hey Aiden, how's it going? Good to see you, my friend. Who else? Somebody else popped in here at the same time, I think. Hey Cardamancy, good to see you, my friend. So I see that some people are popping stuff in the chat, and I encourage you to feel free to share as much as you feel that you need to. If you have any questions as I'm going along, please pop it into the chat. Kristen says, I became more social during the pandemic because I discovered Tarot Tube. And Scott agreed with that. And that's a very good point, and something that we will cover in a moment. Thank you, Linda. I appreciate that very much. Thank you, Jean. I appreciate you. So, when the pandemic started, like everyone else, I was fearful of leaving the house because of the pandemic. And there were times where I thought, okay, like, I thought that I was mentally ready to step out, but then I had an excuse. My excuse was the pandemic. Well, I can't go outside, right? This is going to probably make me cry, and I apologize. Like, this is just, it's an emotional topic, so forgive me, but just try to hang in there with me, okay, you guys? My husband's father passed away 5 weeks ago now. And in that whole entire time of him going back and forth to the hospital, and then the aftermath of that, and going to his home and having to clear out, I wasn't there. I wasn't there. And of course, it's because we have 3 cats and we can't leave them alone, or because I've got a YouTube channel and I have to go live, or, I can't go in the hospital because, there's, the COVID restrictions. But the truth is because I don't leave my house. So, the feeling of being isolated, like we said in the beginning, it can be a temporary thing, or it can sort of snowball. And I think the important part of this conversation, and the reason why I'm sharing what I'm sharing, is because every person has experienced that temporary feeling of isolation. The important part is not to extend it into a situation that I have put myself in a space of, right? Because the long-term effects of feeling isolated, this is not me talking, this is some research that I did. You start to lose muscle memory. You start to lose brain memory. You stop functioning. And if you isolate yourself to a particular point, you can start to exhibit signs of Alzheimer's, dementia. You put yourself at great risk for heart conditions, strokes. And so, what we need to work on is figuring out how we get out of that situational, I'm going to call it that situational feeling of isolation, right? A particular occurrence has made you react and feel a certain way. And so you've removed yourself, you've stepped back, you've isolated yourself. No matter what your circumstance is, at some point we're going to have to step our foot back out, right? So that's where I want to take this. But I wanted to start with that so that you understand, from my perspective, if I get emotional, or if I, make an assumption that, don't do this for too long. I'm coming from a place where, like, my sister, for example, phoned me, I don't know, a couple of weeks ago and said to me, I still have your Christmas present. Now, I had planned on going to my sister's house for Christmas, but my sister and her family got COVID. My sister lives 2 hours away from me. And I had to say to her, so she said, we should get together and we should go to Mom's spot, which was the last time that I left my house, which was July of last year. It was the last time I was in my car for a length of time. And she said we should go to Mom's spot and then we could go out to eat. And immediately I was panicked. But I will say, healing has occurred, friends, because I was honest and I just owned it. And I said, you know what, honey? That would be lovely. I haven't taken a trip in my car in a really, really long time. And that would be an awful lot. It's 2 hours there one way, going to mom's spot and going out to eat, and then 2 hours back. That's an awful lot for the first venture out of the house in over a year. And I said, so maybe you could just come here. So at least I owned it, right? All right, so I'm going to back up in the chat because I've seen a couple of things. Thank you, Bora Bora. I appreciate that. That's very kind of you. Okay, so Aiden says that I feel isolated right now. I think this is the worst it's been since the pandemic. I don't have any in-person friends, and I don't know the last time that I had fun. So that's a very good point that you bring up, Aiden. And other people have alluded to that. I think Kristen said about YouTube and Scott. This community that we have, this feeling of love and support from like-minded individuals, whether you listen to the political reads, whether you are looking for spiritual guidance, whether you are just learning about your spirituality, whether you are just looking for messages from your loved ones, no matter what the reason is that brought you into this community in the first place, no matter what attracted you to this community. I have said this before, and I will say it over and over and over again. When I came to this community, it was by not really an accident, but sort of an accident. I mean, I wasn't looking for it. I popped into the chat, and when I realized that someone would answer a question and give me some guidance, I was hooked. But what kept me coming back was the people in the chat. The people in the chat, virtual strangers that seem to have this level of support and understanding that in some cases my friends and my own family didn't seem to offer me, was fascinating, a little sad, and kind of intriguing all at the same time. And it was like a magnet, like it just reached out and went and just grabbed a hold of me, and that's what kept me coming back. So I encourage you to please always remember that this community is there to lift people up. That is what we do. That is who we are. We are all like-minded individuals in terms of understanding and caring and loving and giving and coming from a place of love that you don't find just walking down the street, if that makes sense. That would be the first thing that I would say to that, Aiden. And the second thing that I would say to that is this. Without connection, whether they be best friends or just your neighbor that you say hi to every Tuesday, because as you go and they pass, you know what I mean? You just happen to see each other at the same time every Tuesday. That's a connection. We have to work at the connection. And I think that is the part that sometimes we get stuck on. Our immediate response is to protect ourselves. So you hurt me, I'm wrapping my arms around myself because I need to feel loved. I need to feel, embraced. And I've got my arms out like this, right? I'm blocking, because that's what we tell everyone to do, right? Put your boundaries up, right? I got my boundaries up. When really what we need to do is when that neighbor passes by us and we wave, we need to go over there and say, hey, how's it going? And have a chat over the fence. Do you know what I mean? If that makes sense? We need to make an effort, because as much as we're feeling isolated, that person could also be feeling isolated. And I know it's difficult, but we have to do that to save ourselves from ourselves, if that makes sense. I hope that helps a bit, Eden. All right. That's very true, Kristen. That's very true. To your comment, I'll show it on the screen so everyone knows where I'm at. That people on YouTube can seem happy, but who knows what hurt and loneliness they are hiding. Absolutely. I mean, unless they decide to share, how do we know, right? And Kiva says, closed spaces, elevator, begin locked in a room, too long. Yeah. When you isolate yourself in that closed space for a long period of time, you can feel very trapped, very, very, like the walls are closing in. Jeannie says, I've been there in the past too, felt like a failure. Yep. And so the common theme here, the common thread, what we're saying is that this is what we deem or what we sense as a failure or an insufficiency in ourselves, which stops us from feeling like we are accepted, that we belong, that we can, walk alongside someone else as an equal. We feel less than, and so we push ourselves to the back of the room, right? Linda says that I'm still in that isolation to an extent, even though I had to work every day during the pandemic. I still have that fear, hard to socialize. Right. And of course, socialization in the traditional sense of the word, what we all deem as what we call socializing, going to lunch with our friends, or going, for a barbecue on the weekend with our friends. Thank God for technology. I mean, most of us, myself included, have a whole lot to say behind the scenes about technology. But, imagine if we were 50 years ago and this pandemic had happened, when we only could have written or phoned. Now we can reach clear across the other side of the world in a matter of a moment. The opportunity to communicate with so many different individuals is so much more available to us than it ever was before, that we are not alone. We're not alone. And the ability to socialize is right there. Now, a lot of times it doesn't feel the same, but there is, think back to that movie, You've Got Mail. There's no better feeling than opening up your inbox and seeing that someone just decided to text you or email you today because they were thinking about you. It's a lovely feeling. And so I encourage us all, if we are feeling like I don't have anyone to talk to, I wish someone would reach out. Well, you reach out. Because it does the same thing for you. Actually, it makes you feel even better, because you know that it's fulfilled your need, and you've also now helped someone else because you've brightened their day. You probably put a smile on their face. Jeannie says, I agree. Baby steps is a better way to start going out again. We have to relearn how to live again. And in that particular point, Jeannie, I totally agree with you. And I have to say that it slightly makes me feel better for myself, because I feel like if I go out and I can't do it, that it's not going to be that, like, I'm not going to be ostracized I won't be judged in the same way that I was previously because everybody was doing it. Now more people might be hesitant like I am. And so I'm blending in, right? I'm just like everybody else. So I'm not sticking out like a sore thumb, if that makes sense. All right. So Linda says, this community is the most socialization I've done in about 10 years other than family. Well, we are glad that you are here, Linda. I'm happy that you found us. And Jeannie says, I feel like isolation is sadly more common these days. I agree with that. I agree with that. Technology brings us together, but also can be isolating. It can absolutely be isolating if people, especially like, you see the people going in the car or in the restaurant or whatever, and they're all like this, or at the dinner table where no one's talking and they're all like on their phones, right? I agree with that. Everything in moderation. Okay. Kristen says, I feel like I am both part of a community with Tarot Tube and yet outside of it and even sometimes excluded by it, which can feel isolating. Oh my gosh, Kristen, hitting all the nails on the head for that one. Okay, so let me just say that I get what you're saying. I've experienced it. Yeah, it can hurt. It can hurt. It can hurt a lot. It can hurt a lot. I try to keep these talks as positive as possible, but there are some days, friends, when I mean, let's put it this way. From being in the chat to going up on the screen, clearly I did not think it through, because there are days when it's like, wow, can y'all just stop coming for me, because, I wore too much makeup, or because my lighting wasn't good, or, I'm not a professional, I'm not Rachel Maddow. I don't know how to do this. I'm just some person who thought that my story was important to share because people encouraged me that my story was important to share. Do you know what I mean? I had no idea that there was all this stuff, and I'll just leave it there. I didn't know there was all this stuff that came with being a content creator or a channel host. And I don't know why I didn't think that. I just honestly, it never entered my mind. But I will say this, the good parts far outweigh any of the nonsense. And that is when those boundaries and those limits have to be exercised, because otherwise you can really get hurt. And I'll also want to say that I'm sorry that you've experienced that. And if you ever want to discuss it, I'm happy to do that. So just email me. Oh, thank you, Bora. Oh, hi, Tarot Stash. Hey, Gerald. How's it going, my friend? Bora says, I admire your courage, Kelly. Thank you. Thank you, Bora. I appreciate you saying that. That's very kind of you. Linda says, your honesty about your journey is what helps me to grow and take those steps into a new world. Thank you, Linda, for saying so. I appreciate that. Like I said, every single person has a story. Every single person's story can help someone else. Right? We by this interaction that we're doing here, we're all helping and encouraging and lifting each other up. Someone's going to say something that's going to hit home for someone else, that's going to spark a conversation, and then someone else is going to share something, and that sort of repeats itself, and it's a beautiful thing. I've said many a time, sitting here watching this happen, when this exact moment that we're in right now starts to happen, and people start to peel those layers back, and I can see certain people blossoming. It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. All right, so Linda says, we all have to create a community in new ways because the old doesn't work anymore. That's a very valid point as well. And I think that also could contribute to some people's feeling of isolation, because what we once knew as our normal, we feel and or possibly fear that can't be the way it is anymore because we don't feel safe, right? But we all know that, 10 years from now, 5 years from now, it's going to be like 5 years ago, and we'll be going about our business and not even think twice. This is the fuzzy bit of it where you're kind of like, I'm not so sure. Like you're going through the store and you're like, oh gosh, there's a whole family there and they're getting really, really close. Do you know what I mean? Like I almost feel like that would be the reaction that more people would have than not, because let's be honest, no one wants the big C, right? COVID, I'm referring to. Kristen says, thanks, Kelly. I appreciate it. Well, I appreciate you, Kristen. Jeannie says, I met girlfriends for lunch this past weekend I hadn't seen in 2 years. A small step towards normalcy, but a step nonetheless. That's wonderful, Jeannie. See, now, that's the kind of thing that I'm talking about, right? You ventured out. And good for you. And hopefully it was a wonderful experience. I know that Teresa went to see her sisters not too long ago. She hadn't seen them in a while. Again, a beautiful experience, right? I think that's wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. Okay, so I'm trying to find my sticky note, which of course now I can't find. Okay, I've got my sticky note now on the screen. So hi, Marie. Let's think about a few things that we could do to help ourselves in terms of lessening the feeling of isolation and encouraging a more inclusive feeling, right? So we could write letters to people. We could send a text to someone. If you live in a house or an apartment, you might say hi to someone at the post office or at the post box, right? Say hi to someone on the front porch or at the driveway. It really is that simple. It really is that simple. Meaning the contact of another human being is really that simple. The scary part, the difficult part, is the fear. And what do I always say about fear? Anxiety, diagnosed anxiety, is based on fear. Fear of the unknown. And so when we fear something that we are afraid of because we don't understand it, or because we don't, we're not fully invested in it, whatever verbology you want to put on it, sometimes we can bury our head in the sand, like yours truly, and we can just pretend like it's not happening. So then we start to avoid people, situations, things, because they make us feel uncomfortable. And avoidance breeds anxiety. And so when you create that safety bubble for yourself, it sounds like a great idea, checks all those boxes off. And then all of a sudden it's like, uh-oh. Now how do I dip my toe back in the water? So Kristen says attend meetups that are based on something we find interesting. That's an excellent idea. That's exactly it, right? I'm just using this example, like Kristen said. After my mom died, I started a Facebook group for my baton twirling club, and it was so much fun. I mean, it's trickled down, but it was so much fun because we were all posting pictures and talking about our favorite memories, and it was wonderful. It was wonderful. So something exactly like what Kristen is saying is something that can really, really help. Maybe start a new hobby. I love to crochet. Many, 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 many years ago, these ladies that I used to work with would crochet during their lunch period, and I had no idea how to crochet, didn't know anything about it. I couldn't read a pattern to save my life, but I knew a couple of stitches that they had taught me. And after my mom passed, I would just watch YouTube videos on crocheting, and before you knew it, I was buying all kinds of yarn and I was crocheting all kinds of things. And then that led to other things, that were in that same kind of realm. And it was wonderful. So there's that, right? Marie says, I miss hugging. Well, Marie, you know what I'm going to say? And I mean this in the best possible way. There's actually a card, I believe it's in the Empath Empowerment deck, about hugging ourselves. I probably won't be able to find it. Let me see. Because I love the way that it's put. There you go. Practice self-soothing. That you have the power to comfort yourself. When you are upset, to place a hand gently over your heart and send yourself unconditional love to ease your tension and your frustration. And so I have to think that if we can practice self-soothing in that manner, and I realize it's not at all the same thing. I get that. But if you just felt in a particular moment, in a particular situation, oh my gosh, I so need a hug right now. I would like to think that if you took your two hands and placed them on your heart or put them on your shoulders and just squeezed really, really tight and sent yourself that unconditional loving energy and embrace, that you would feel it. And actually, I just thought of something. Now we have one of the best huggers in the whole darn community here in this chat. So for the 11 people, it keeps filtering between 13 and 11. For the 11 people and whoever's listening out there, the next time that you say or you feel that you need a hug, I want you to type in the chat, hugs. No please, no I need, just the word hugs. And I want us all to recognize that word, hugs. And I want us to send hugs to that person. I know it's not the same thing, but love is love. And if it is sent with love, you should receive it with that same feeling. I can confirm that I can do that. Hi, Janet P. Thank you for being here, my friend. Hi, Sharon Sipe. Hi, everybody. I know I'm a hugger too, Marie. I miss it absolutely, but you know, we can only do what we can do, right? It's not worth me going out and hugging a random stranger right now because I don't want to catch COVID. So the best thing I can do is what everyone's doing in the chat right now. Hugs. Why not? I hope that makes sense. And thank you, Teresa, for happy birthday to all Cancer signs and all Leo signs. My birthday's coming, friends. Yay. Okay. Oh, hi, Geek. How's it going? It's good to see you. I'm just going back up in the chat to see if I missed anything. Hi, Janet P. Okay, so elevators, I'm deadly scared of them to this day. Sport cars, but yeah. I am I'm not afraid of elevators, oddly enough, although I was stuck in an elevator once. I was like in grade 4. Geek, it's good to see you, Geek. So Geek says, I've been isolated for so long due to illness, I almost forgot how to speak. Try to go out and meet people. I'm not into drinking, drugs, and fundamentalist churches, so I'm out in the cold. Gotcha. Well, I hope that you're okay now. And what we were talking about, which is the point that you mentioned, right? So some of you I know have said in different chats, you know, that you're like a blue dot in a red sea, right? And it makes it very difficult for you to interact with people, and in some cases in your own family. So I totally get that. I mean, it's horrible that you're in that situation, but I get it. And so we were saying earlier, Geek, that you know, within this community that we are like-minded people, and so at least in this community, you know that you're going to come in, you're going to say what you're going to say, and you're not going to be shied away, you're not going to be shunned, you're not going to be prejudged because, you know, of anything that you might say. I realize it's not the same as personal interaction with people, but it is still interaction. And sometimes, in like only speaking for myself, because I know I'm not being judged, this is the interaction that I prefer, if that makes sense. Either way, I'm very glad that you're here. It's good to see you, my friend. Teresa says, Keep Alliance, I cannot stand the highway. I do not drive on the highway, but I am a passenger with my hubby, and that even scares me. Teresa, oh my God, and Kiba about the car thing. I mean, oh, you guys. So my husband used to own a car club. One of the things that we did on the car with the car club is we went driving everywhere. I used to have my own, you know, muscle car, and I used to drive by myself, and I can barely drive down the road now. So I can relate. I can relate. What I do is I'm a passenger. I do my tapping. Sometimes, you know, I'll have a crystal in my hand and I'll do my visualization, close my eyes, look out the window, and I transport myself to some other place. You got to do what you got to do to get through the experience, right? Thank you, Ron. We definitely need hugs to all and healing light. I thank you, my friend. Oh, that's so sweet, Teresa. I'm so glad, love. That's so sweet. That your husband is getting better. Oh my goodness, Kiva. That's terrible. I'm so sorry that happened to you. That's a really interesting concept to me when it comes to fearing certain things and, how to get past those fears, right? So the fear of, I'm afraid of, heights. I'm afraid to fly. I'm afraid to, I'm afraid to pools, whatever it might be. I suppose one could go through their life and say, I don't ever need to fly, so I don't really need to address that fear. I was afraid of flying, but I had nothing to base that on because I'd never been on an airplane, so I don't know where that came from, but there you have it. I'm afraid of heights, so maybe that's where it came from. Don't know. And so I've gone on a plane by myself for a work trip, there and back. It was a 4-hour flight. And so, I addressed it. I came back and I can stand here today and say, not in love with it. I could probably do it again, but I know my limit now. And so I guess what I'm trying to say is, if there was a reason why you felt it necessary, if it's a fear that is stopping you from living your life normally, right? Then if there was a way that you could try to address it, you can get hypnotized. You can, of course, speak to a therapist about it. You can, take lessons. For example, like say it was, jumping out of an airplane or something. There's courses and things that you can take to help you overcome your fear. But if it's something about, like I've heard people, I fear, snakes. Well, then, don't probably move to Australia would be the thing I would say. Do you know what I mean? Like, don't go to a reptile store. That's not the best advice in the world, but honestly, that's what I would do. If it's something I can't get my words out. If it's something that you would be, something that's going to come up in your life constantly and consistently, then you probably would be better to address it than not to address it. But if it's something that, I'm afraid of red shoes, well, then don't wear red shoes. Do you know what I mean? Thank you, Teresa. You've never been on an airplane? Interesting. Well, see, now, Kiva, now that's interesting. So, maybe when things get better, in terms of you're feeling safer to, be out in society, maybe you could sign up for a swim class. Why not? Right? If that's something that you felt like you wanted to do, if you felt like you wanted to address it, maybe sign up for a swim class. There's a lot of people that don't know how to swim, and which may surprise a lot of people, but there's a lot of people that don't know how to swim or are afraid of swimming. Yeah, I'm right there with you, Teresa. Oh, have they, Jean? You know what? That's interesting because I was watching Linda G today with Kevin, the healing medium, and they were talking about Eckhart and the books. So I'll put that up on the screen there in case anybody else wants to look at that. So Eckhart Tolle's books have helped a lot with anxiety. I mean, honestly, you guys, I have, from the time that I was diagnosed, so 10 years ago, actually not 10 years ago, it's like 9.25 years ago, I guess now, because I went for probably 3/4 of a year without being diagnosed. I got all kinds of tips and lots of tools, but I had difficulty applying those tips. You know what I mean? It's like, how can I explain? Have you ever been to like a first aid course? It's like, if this happens, do this. If this happens, do that. It was kind of like that kind of information that I was getting. And as much as I had the information in my pocket and I understood the information I was receiving, it was only good for specific circumstances. At least in my head, that's how I viewed it, right? My understanding was not at the same level as the information I was receiving. So in other words, it was like, if this happens, you're going to do this. And if this happens, you're going to do that. So how do I get out of a panic attack? Do this. How do I get out of feeling nervous? I do this. How do I, change my negative thought pattern to a more positive pattern? Do this. But there was nothing given to me specifically, or nothing given to me, and I was able to be in that mindset to actually receive the information to the point where I understood it, to help me move forward, to move past it. That was like just pills that were constantly given to me. Here, take these. Which, by the way, like never. No, not the way I wanted to do. No judgment against anyone who takes medication for it. No judgment. I actually have a fear of taking medication, so there you go. Okay, so Teresa says, my hubby is one of them, never learned to swim, but he loves the water. I love that. Geek Hillbilly says, fear of skydiving. A sergeant's boot to my butt took care of that, and jump school, right? Yeah. I mean, that's a very good point also, Geek, that you bring up, because I fear that these days, not as much as before. Like, I'm going to tell you guys a true story. Hi, Cal Lizzie, by the way. Thank you for being here, my friend. And I share this because I want you guys, again, just so that you know these things have happened to me, and I'm only talking about my personal experiences, right? And do you not love all the patterns I'm wearing? I was cool, and this was first in the closet, so I grabbed it. So I tried to show up like this, so I'm wearing one pattern. I hope I'm not sending anyone into like eyeball shock with all my crazy patterns on. And I'm drinking water. Yay. So every year at my mom's house, they would do like an annual garage sale. And on my mom's, the first annual garage sale after my mom passed, which was only, a couple of months, because my mom died at the end of March. And so, it would have been in the summertime, right? And it was always my mom and the neighbor behind her that would get together. And so one year it was at my mom's house. The next year it was at the other lady's house, and so on and so forth. So this particular year, obviously the neighbor had it. And our stepfather had asked, what did we think? And anyways, whatever. So my sister's there, I'm there, everybody's there. It's at the neighbor's house. The garage sale is done. Okay, so let's not talk about how hard it was to have strangers going through my mother's stuff. Let's not talk about that, because that was a lot. Let's talk about after the garage sale is over, and we're trying to assess how we felt about it, right? Like, was it a good day? It didn't feel the same. It was such a fun time for all of us when my mom would have that garage sale, because my mom was a bit like goofy funny, and we would just have a blast. And of course, I mean, we just wanted to spend time with her, so it was so much fun. And anyways, when it's over, we're all standing outside, and I will never forget. So the lady, I've known the lady for like 17 years. She's standing there. This is my mom's neighbor. And she's looking at me, and she's asking me like how I'm doing. And I said, like, I'm not doing great. I'm not doing great. And she said, well, what do you mean? So I started to tell her like what I had been experiencing, how I was feeling. And she just shook her head and looked at my stepfather. And my stepfather was like, well, don't look at me, kiddo. And then she said, I don't understand you young people. I mean, all you needed is just good loving from your husband, and you should be fine. So where was I going with that point? To Geek Hillbilly's point about the sergeant's boot to his butt. 20 years ago, 50 years ago, you weren't complaining that like, oh, I'm nervous, I can't do that. You know what I mean? It was just not tolerated. It's a little more accepted now, but not near where it needs to be. That was my reason for sharing. Teresa says, my daughter self-taught herself to swim years ago. Proud of her. That's great, Teresa. We're glad that you're here, Cal Lizzie. Never be sorry for being late. You're here. That's the good point. Yes, out of a mason jar. It isn't it? It is very 80s, my outfit. Teresa, I love it when you're here and you share, my friend. Of course, Marie, I'd be harnessed to an expert too. First of all, it wouldn't happen. I'm just saying, Geek Hillbilly, you are my hero, because there's no way. There's no way. Unless Tom Cruise is going to be my expert, maybe I might consider it. No, I'm joking. I would. No. Maybe if Tom Cruise said he would marry me or wanted to adopt me as his kid, and maybe then I wouldn't. I'd be like, nope, sorry. But yeah, so the point that I'm making is, that's not the way to push somebody into doing something. But hey, if it works, great. But I wouldn't encourage anybody to do, what Geek Hillbilly had done to him. But we're all of a certain age, so we sort of understand the mentality. Like if we went to our grandparents right now, right? Imagine going to your grandparents and saying, oh my God, like I just feel so alone and I'm so isolated and I can't go anywhere and I can't do anything. And like, I mean, I only have 300 channels on the TV, or 200 channels, or 100 channels, or 50 channels on the TV. And what would our grandparents say? What would our grandparents tell us? Our grandparents would look at us like, pardon? I work 6 days a week. I had like 3 outfits to my name. We had like $4 extra for a whole month, and we had to feed 10 people. You know what I mean? They understood sacrifice. They understood a mentality where yes, Teresa, I love that. They understood a certain way of thinking and a certain mentality that went with that particular time, right? My mom used to say to us, like, or well, mostly my dad, like, don't complain or I'll give you something to complain about, like that kind of mentality. I just think that we are so used to, and this happens with evolution and progress, right? It happens. It's not anything. It's not anything bad about us. I just think that this is a thing that happens. You know, we have much more opportunity, and there are so many more options available to us that they didn't have before, right? Oh my gosh. Geek, honestly, the things that you have to share. That's okay. We're glad that you're here, Michelle. This is the second time I've seen Michelle today. Yay. Hi, Teresa. It's good to see you, my friend. Thank you for being here. Yeah, suck it up, Buttercup. 100%. Yeah. So yeah, so basically, not to get myself off track, but basically, our older generation people, our grandparents or our great grandparents, they would look at us right now and be like, no different than probably the way that we look at. Oh, okay, Michelle, you're so sweet. No different than we probably look at the younger generations and just be like, you know what I mean? I forgot now what my point of all that was, but yeah. Yes, absolutely, Marie. Well, I mean, it's that just made me think of another example of that same kind of thing where we would come downstairs and look at the Christmas tree, and each of us in this room are in a certain age range, but we're not all the same age, and so each of our experiences when we walk down to that Christmas tree, if we celebrate Christmas, of course, and looked at the presents underneath that Christmas tree versus what our grandparents or our parents had. Excuse me, what their experience was when they walked down the stairs and seen under their Christmas tree was vastly, vastly different. And it's not because they were loved any less or any more, or we were. It's just simply because times were different, right? We have such an emphasis on stuff, right? And the opportunity for the amount of stuff that we can have, that we almost, I don't know that entitled would be a word that I would use, but it's a feeling of like, this is what I know, right? This is just what I know. I love that, Geek. That's so cute. My great grandmother would say, "You've learned, boy." I can just about hear that still. I love that. Marie says we could go outside and play with sticks, use our imagination. 100%. 100%. Yep. And so sometimes tapping into those kinds of thought patterns can even be a helpful exercise when we are feeling, stuck, feeling isolated. I don't know what to do. I'm bored. I've done, I can't keep going back and forth to this TV program or to this chat room or to the fridge or whatever. You know what I mean? The four walls are closing in. Maybe if we adopt that similar kind of thought pattern, as to, okay, what can I do different? How can I change this up? How can I make this more exciting, right? Because sometimes, again, bringing this point back to where we started, the feeling of isolation, and if we isolate ourselves to the point of an extreme, you can actually do damage to your brain, right? You start to exhibit signs of like Alzheimer's, dementia, because you're not being, you're not thinking, you're not using your brain, you're not, engaging in conversation, you're not learning new things. And so maybe if we are in a situation where we're feeling isolated during the pandemic, whatever the case may be, maybe you're at the cottage, you know what I mean? Maybe what we need to do is to think, okay, so I've got, 2 popsicle sticks and a string of yarn. What can I do? And try to do something with it. Yes, Marie, absolutely. Try to explain to kids games outside. They look at you like you're weird. Right. Yeah. Oh, it's all good, Bora Bora. Yeah. I mean, like, so that's my mom's neighbor, right? That said that to me. And I just kind of shook my head and went like, what? My neighbor that I have here now, I used to go over there and talk all the time with her. She has my phone number. I have her. She can, text me or come over. But then her husband got sick, and he was sick for a very long time, and she didn't want to ever really leave him. And so I had to go over there. Well, then the pandemic started, and that became uncomfortable because he was going for treatments in and out of hospital, and it was wintertime. And anyways, as it started to warm up last year, sadly, he passed at the beginning of the summer. And, she was, then we had like winter, and here we are. And she just said to Mark the other day, like, is Kelly still alive? And it's like what? Why would you say that? I'm not being smart, but if you're so concerned, then like text me. And so to my point that I had said earlier, and to what some other people's point expressed here in the chat, I would much prefer to show up here and talk to you all, because I know that you came here to interact with me, not to be like that and say, oh, are you still alive? I just tuned in to see if you were still, conscious. Like, so. Oh, I love that, Marie. Yes, that's true, geek. Well, it's like, shoveling the snow or mowing the lawn and those types of things. Like, that's just like unheard of, right? And I mean, during the pandemic, it would be a great time for some children to well, anyone really, but specifically like, university students, high school students that were, feeling like no connection and whatever, go up and down the neighborhood with a lawnmower, and I'm just, yeah, it does, right? Thank you, Jeannie, for saying that. I love that Marie's coming up with all of the games. I love it. Connect with your inner child and play, dance and skip. I mean, friends, listen, that whole concept is something that I think, when someone used to say that to me, and I'm talking about myself personally, when someone would say to me, like, connect to your inner child, my defenses would go up, because I was told my whole life that I was naive, I was immature, because I never looked my age. And so because I didn't look my age, I wasn't treated my age. And I would always get very defensive when people would, sort of assume that I was that way. Do you know what I mean? Because I don't consider myself a naive or an immature person. I'm just me, right? And unless you're having a lengthy conversation with someone, I don't know how you can make that kind of an assessment, to be perfectly honest. That's interesting, Cal Lizzie. I like that. As a food for thought footnote, I like that. Borbor says a woman that worked with my brother in Oregon put a video on Facebook that my brother had passed away suddenly. She posted it the day after the family found out my brother passed. My mom, my sisters, and I were in shock and grieving. Yeah. Sadly, Bora Bora, I know. I mean, it's not my experience. It's my husband's experience, but I don't feel comfortable putting his personal business out because it's not my business. But his family is in a situation similar to any other family that has, beyond him, there's other family members. And somebody put a post up on Facebook, crying and boo-hooing and, oh my God, and I feel so, and sort of letting everyone know when it really wasn't their place to tell. It's very upsetting, especially if you're in the middle of that process. But hopefully we come to the conclusion that those people obviously are very hurt and are not in a place of understanding in the same level that you are, if you know what I mean. I love that, Geek. You bought your first pickup by cutting the grass for everyone. Good for you. Yeah. Reminds me, I mean, I can't speak about this because this is my personal experience. Reminds me of my stepsister, in name only, sending me and my sister an email telling us what horrible human beings we are because we got a lawyer to get our mother's remains back, because we only waited 9 years. And because we were disinherited from our mother's estate, or from our mother's portion of the estate, that somehow we were horrible human beings because after all, they're trying to grieve their father. And I will tell you, I wasn't full of love and light at that moment, but I will say this. I sent them a letter. I let them know how I felt when I had permission to speak on my sister's behalf as if I was speaking for her. I felt very good about it. And I've never looked at it again, and I've never went there again. My issue was never with them. My issue was with the situation. But I'm also not going to apologize because I didn't do anything wrong. Sometimes it's just that kind of a situation, and it's really, really, really hard when you are going through something so traumatic to understand. Hi, Lisa. Thank you for popping in, my friend. I appreciate you. Sleep well. Death, grief, loss. It can literally change your life. If you're not able to address it and get assistance if you need it, or get support from the people around you. You know, like, for example, you go to your mother's house that is occupied by someone who is not your family because you were told that you had a 2-week deadline to remove her things from the home. And you drive 2 hours to go and get her stuff. And that person looks at you and says, "What are you doing here?" And then slams the door in your face. Difficult. I'm so sorry, Barbara. That's, you know, and that's the thing. When people do things like that to get attention or to bring the focus to them, because there's really only one reason why people would do that. Well, there's 2 reasons, right? One is to, you know, spread the information because, you know, your family is and friends are across, you know, 9 different states or 9 different provinces or 9,000 miles or whatever the case may be. So you're trying to put the word out there, or you're looking for people to say, "I'm so sorry for your loss." And then there's the other side of that, where, and again, I can speak to this from personal experience. If I told you how many times I went outside after work or on my lunch or whatever, and I was having a cigarette, and someone came up to me and they'd be like, "Oh, you're still smoking. Didn't your mother die of lung cancer?" Or, "Don't you think your mother would be disappointed in you because you're still smoking?" People don't think about the level of pain that another person is in certain situations or certain cases. You know, sort of like, don't think before they speak, and they say things to you that literally feel like you know, you're being wounded in your heart. When you're experiencing that kind of pain, that kind of loss or grief, you are super, super sensitive to everything. And I know, again, from personal experiences that, you know, there were days where I would walk around and it would be perfectly fine. And the next minute, someone would say something to me and it was like, "How dare you?" And I don't even know that what they said was that bad. It was just me not being able to understand or to deal or to process my own personal feelings. And I'm not saying that that's your case. I'm just saying, right? Right. And most of the time it is that exact thing, Barbara. It is that, attention seeking, which is really difficult to recognize that, because it affects you personally, right? If you were outside of that and you can look at it from a different lens, then you can see it for what it is, and maybe not be affected by it. But because you were living in that and experiencing and trying to understand your loss and your grief, it was very difficult for you to put yourself in a position of going, oh, I get it. That's who, that's obviously they're hurting in some way, right? Yeah, and I mean, thank you, Jeannie, for saying that. Yeah, I used to say the same thing. Like, really, what the hell? And Kel Lizzie, thank you, because that's exactly what it is. In some cases, people are mean, and they will reach out and grab a hold of you, and just because they know they can. You know what, Geek? I love that. I do. I love it. I don't love that was said to you, but I love that that's what you said back. You know what? That right there, my friends. Now, that may not be love and light in everyone's definition, but I call that standing up for your truth, standing up for your power. Like, no. I love it. It's very true, Linda. People don't. Well, okay. We all have those friends. We all have those people where they're like, oh my God, you're never going to believe what happened to me. So, ABC, XYZ, 1, 2, 3. And you're like, oh yeah, like that happened to me too. Oh, but those people. So whatever happened to them, or whatever happened to you, happened to them. But when it happened to them, it was 10 times worse than what happened to you. So there's no way you could possibly understand. Those people that always have to have like a leg up on you or a one up on you. It's very sad, because obviously they are either lacking in their understanding of what being a supportive friend, we'll call them, is actually about. And I think that it says a lot more about them than it ever does about the person that they're, throwing the shade to or throwing the judgment at. Because it is a situation of, like, they're hurt, right? And sometimes when other people are hurt, the only way that they can make themselves feel better is to hurt everyone else around them, or bring everyone else around them down so they can feel superior. That's terrible, Bora Bora. Yes, exactly, Kel. They do get off on it. Some people, that's the only way they do feel good about themselves. Hey, Connie B. Oh, yuck. Well, hopefully it's all cleaned up now. So we kind of got off on a lot of side notes, but this has been a great conversation, because everyone's sharing, and I so appreciate when you all share like that. It makes it worth it when to show up and have these conversations, because the conversation went where it needed to go, and I love that. Gotcha, Marie. Yeah, and that's what it's like, Linda, right? Like trying to one up each other. like when my father died, and I don't know if this is an example, but to me it makes sense that it fits in this category. When my dad died, my father passed away on a Friday, and his younger brother died on Monday. And the family's not close because there's so many of them and they're so spread out in age and in location. But they came together and they tried to do what they tried to do. You know, they tried to be there for each other and support each other and lift each other up, etc., etc. You know, which is wonderful. And because of circumstances beyond our control, there was, you know, my dad's wishes were not carried out. And so anyways, yada yada. We went on to my uncle, another uncle, because my dad had so many brothers and sisters, had a memorial for his two brothers, my dad and my uncle that passed. And so this was like a year later. And so there we are. And sorry, I got a kitty cat crying behind me here. What's the problem? Can I help you? Can you guys hear? It's just like, wow. Like I'm getting in trouble. So during that evening, there was lots of, you know, people saying things and pictures being shown and so forth. And every time that someone said something to my sister or I, his brothers and sisters would say, yeah, but my brother. But he was my brother. And it's like, he was our dad. Is this a competition? Like, you know, I'm saying this, and honestly, I just the screen just popped up one more comment, and right at my eye line is Ron Unconditional Love Tarot, and Ron knows because I've said this before. He reminds me a lot of my dad. He resembles my dad. And I'm looking at that word unconditional love, and I'm thinking to myself as I'm saying that, that's not what that is. But because I know the story of their upbringing and their childhood, which was so awful. I'm not hurt by it as I should be, and I'm not offended by it as one might be. I think because I understand that it comes from a very hurt but honest place, which is very sad. Very sad. My father was more like their father than not only their oldest brother. Like I have an aunt on my dad's side who's only 2 years older than me. I have an uncle that's only 4 years older than me. And my parents were married for 5 years before they had me. So they didn't even grow up in the same house as my dad. Right? He was their everything. Their father died when I was about 2. And their mother died when I was 13. Every single one of them was in children's services at some point or another. You know, they didn't have money, they didn't have food, they didn't have clothes. The stories are horrific. And so to the point that we were making about some people, you know, doing things to hurt others intentionally. not everyone who's starving for attention does it just to be like mean-spirited. Sometimes it's like a cry for help. And so we must send them love and light. We must. Because they're probably wounded in some way. Hi, Tammy Jackson. Good to see you, my friend. I seen somebody say one-upmanship. I think that was Bora Bora that said that, and I was kind of giggling. One-upmanship, yeah. Jeannie says it's not love and light, but as Johnny from Terrace Apprentice says, I ain't Mother Teresa. Oh my gosh, he is so funny. I love him. Just love him. Oh my goodness, you guys. This has been a really, really good talk. A really, really good talk. And so I hope that you have some information to, we're not ending it. I'm just saying I hope that you have some information that if you're feeling isolated in any way, that you feel a little better about feeling isolated and have maybe some tips as to how you can assist yourself to feel less isolated. Yeah. Absolutely, Cal Lizzie. You know, I mean, to your point, you know, for as wounded as one thinks that they are, there are others out there that, you know, literally just make you cry on spot because it just sounds so horrible, so dreadful. There's so much hurt in this world, is there not, my friends? All right. So here's what we're going to do. For those of you that don't know, we have a new code. The code is the word hugs. Just the word hugs. So on the count of 5, I'll give you all time to start typing. Let's give everybody one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hugs. I want to see a whole bunch of hugs going up my screen. I'll even help. I love it. So that's our new code word, Tammy, by the way. When you see someone in a chat and they type in the word hugs like that, that is code for I need a hug. I could use a hug today. I just love each and every one of you. Y'all just made my day. Seriously, you just made my day. Thank you. I hope you guys can feel the love. I sure can. You're making me tear up over here. All right, so what else is happening? What do I have to report? I was on with Nancy Jean this afternoon. That was fun. And tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, I'm going on with Allie, the Heart and Soul Connected. Nancy Jean is also going there, and she's going to be talking us through working with the Oracle Garden and how it all works. I have one too. So I'm going to give it a shot. I'm going to test her out and see what I can do with it. If I can get my secondary camera's cooperation, of course. Yes, it was. It was sweet. I love it. Oh, Teresa, you're so kind. Thank you. What else do I have to share? Oh, I'm not. So I put out my little video about what's coming up next week, and I did put in there that I was gonna do a Friday night chat tomorrow night. at 8 p.m. I'm not sure if I'm going to or not, but if I am, I'll post it up and you guys will see it. Only because I didn't plan on, I was supposed to be on my summer, slowing things down a bit. And I've literally been on every single day this week. So I'm a little on the tired side. So, and then on Sunday at 3 p.m. Eastern time, we have Juno. Junosphere is coming to Sunday Connection. So I hope you can join us for that. I'll show you what it is, Cal Lizzie, if you're interested. So let me just unroll the packaging here. So it is a cloth that has been designed. Let me see. Let me know. Hopefully you guys can see that okay. So it's a cloth that has been designed, and how it works. Nancy Jean works with crystals. And so you ask your question, and you get your crystals, and you toss the crystals, and you read this grid, similarly to how you would read, like tarot cards or something, right? That's basically that's the short version. So that's how that works. So this is Nancy from Nancy Jean's garden. This is a cloth that she uses. And I know that other people have, purchased them, but I don't know many that use them on YouTube. And so, and then of course you have all of your charts. And I mean, Nancy Jean is just, the woman is just a wealth of information. I mean, there's really no other way to say it. So having her there to explain it is amazing. And she's actually just sort of helped to design one in a similar style as this for past lives, which is amazing. So anyway, so she's coming to Heart and Soul Connected tomorrow with her garden. I will have mine there. Allie's got one too. I don't know if Allie's going to have hers out, but basically that's what it's for. So we'll be doing that, and of course throwing cards too. It is. It's really lovely. Really lovely. Fatigue flare. How is your mom doing, Tammy? Is your mom feeling okay? Doing better? It was nice to see you in the chat today at Nancy Jean's. Monday for Circle of Friends. For anyone who follows me on my collaborative channel, Circle of Friends Tarot. On Monday, we have Sonia Rain Lee joining us as our guest. So, and then Tuesday, I'm on with Kathleen J. Lightworker. All kinds of good things going on. All kinds of good things going on. I actually made dinner tonight. Well, you're very sweet, Geek. And we appreciate, listen, I probably have like 300 videos to watch in my notification box. And I have to say that there are times when I'm like, oh, like I just can't. And then there's other times where I'm like, I don't care. I am determined because, that's how I started in this community. I want to lose that connection. I really enjoy it. Right. So. But it's hard sometimes to fit it all in, friends. It really is. I made pasta, so fusilli, which is, a little tighter of a noodle than rotini. It's like a little corkscrew with sauce. So when I make sauce, I use a half a can of tomatoes. I don't make sauce. I don't make sauce. I create it. I use a half a can of tomatoes, a half a can of sauce, and then some of the passante that comes out of the jar. So it's like tomato puree. And so I mix that together. Oh, hi, honey. You made BLTs? Listen, friend, there's nothing wrong with BLTs. There's nothing wrong with BLTs. You made dinner too, Tammy, but it was a struggle. Well, see, now that's something to celebrate. Push the stool out, as I always say, right? Push the stool out. Celebrate every achievement, no matter how big or how small. Must celebrate all achievements. Nice. Cool, geek. All right, what do you say we let's pull a couple of cards just for the heck of it, because we're sitting here. And we will go at the 2-hour mark. I don't know what the cats are doing over there at the door. Probably chasing bugs, who knows. Charlotte, what are you doing? So we've got stop sensory overload. Stop sensory overload. If too much is coming at you too fast, decrease your stimulation level, take a break from people, dim the lights, and savor quietude. Speaking of feeling isolated, just not for too long. So one time I decided to make stuffed green peppers for my husband. It took me hours. And then all of a sudden my husband was like, I don't really like these. And I'm like, thanks for letting me know. I love it. Okay, we've got the Guardians of the Land, which is protection. It's always nice to know that we are protected. Tammy says 7 days. 7's our manifestation numbers. I guess I manifested a day of rest. Still didn't do it. Laugh out loud. I could ask that for you, Teresa. I bet you they are. He's just not a fan of the card flipped over in the deck here. I'm trying to pull it out. These cards, I really like them, but they're quite sticky. We've got River, which is movement. So movement, being protected, and some sensory, so protecting us from the sensory overload, I guess is what the message is. Teresa, you want me to pull a card? I could do that for you. Why do your two sisters misunderstand you? on. I got to get them out of the box. There we go. I'll use the Guardian Angel Messages Tarot. Oh, you guys, I got some new cards today. Yay. Haven't taken them out of the plastic yet. All right, Teresa. Why did Teresa's two sisters misunderstand her? Why did Teresa's two sisters misunderstand her? Why did Teresa's sisters misunderstand her? Whoa, snap. What deck am I using right now? Guardian Angel Messages Tarot. If you're talking about the new ones that I've got, I can show you those in a moment. I'm super excited about one of them. I mean, I like all of new cards, but one I was really excited about. Are they quite a bit, like, are you, like, quite a different age category, Teresa, from them? I feel like they're envious of you. Like, you have what they want. In some way. Does that make sense to you? I start out with the Tower. So in this deck, it's called Transformation, right? So remember that this is based on the traditional tarot, but I used what words are on these cards, right? So this is realization, life change, and liberation, right? We've got the Two of Water, which is partnership, commitment, and reconciliation. And so I think that they think that they are doing what they are supposed to do in terms of being your sister. I think that they think that they are loving you in the way that they feel that they should, right? I've got the Ten of Water, or the Ten of Cups, which is the happy home card. Literally on the bottom of the card, it's family, love, and blessings. On the bottom of the deck, I've got the Seven of Air, which is awareness, caution, and consequences. And so that's why I asked the question if there's an age difference between you, because I don't think that this is a misunderstanding, like, you know, I totally don't get you. You know, like you're like blue and I'm like green. I don't think it's that. I think it's more like that they misunderstand you. So they maybe they're envious of you. You know how when you're looking at someone else's life, like you look at the highlight reel on Facebook and you're like, oh my God, they've got a new house, a new car, they went on a trip. Do you know what I mean? You think their life is wonderful, and then you find out that it's not. So either they don't fully understand your life and they're making assumptions based on little information, or maybe there's a little bit of envy there. Okay, so I feel like they act like my mother, which is weird. So you feel like they're like judging you, right? Maybe that's what the awareness is. Behind that, because, you know, I go behind the deck. Behind that, I've got the Two of Air. So the Two of Swords, that's indecision, avoidance, and confusion, which is based on your question. Behind that, you've got the 10 of air, so the 10 of swords, which is recovery and freedom. And behind that, we've got the strength card. And I'm going to pull some more cards here, because what we want to know is, what can you do about it? Because it really doesn't matter why they're doing it. It's what you can do to understand and navigate so that you're not as, affected by it. And I want to say, like, just to start off with, put your boundaries up, right? And I like what Linda said, right? Don't worry what they think about you. No one has the right to judge others. They don't. Lots of people will tell you, toxic people tell them to go away. And I understand if you can't. I'll be honest. I mean, my sister is not toxic, but I couldn't do that. She's all I have in this whole entire world. I couldn't do it. We've got wolf, which is heart medicine. Let go of that which does not serve your highest good. So, here's what I'm going to suggest that you do, Teresa. I'm going to pull one more card. I suggest that you let go of whatever judgment you think they're holding towards you, right? They don't get me. Why don't they understand me? That kind of thing. Let it go. Just you be you. Let them be them. If they can't accept you for who you are and what you do, then you have a decision to make in terms of, can you set some boundaries up? So, instead of hanging out all weekend, I can only hang out for a couple hours because otherwise I might say something, right? So put your boundaries up and protect yourself. Or then, of course, like what Tammy's saying, you may have to, or what Linda think it was Linda that said it also, then you have to sort of, keep them at arm's length. Because you can't allow other people to define who you are or to put you inside of a box like that, right? You're doing yourself a great disservice. Having said that, I do understand that they are your sisters and that you want it to work out. So I would encourage you to try, but not at your not at your cost, if that makes sense, right? Like, work with them, not against them, but that's why I said put your boundaries up, have a limit. I've got in the flow, everything is smooth sailing. And so I feel like if you put your boundaries up, you might find things a little bit easier. Okay, so I get that. I get that. Now I don't live in the US, so I don't have this thing. What you all often say in different chats, because you're on different sides of the aisle, that it affects your family. Now, I may be naive, as I alluded to before. I have been accused of that. I would like to think that if that was my sibling or my besties, that I could say, okay, listen, we're going to agree to disagree. And we're just not going to talk about that. We're just not going to talk about that. Because I'm not comfortable. And if they can't agree to that, that's a boundary. Then you know what? I can only spend 15 or 20 minutes, because the minute you start talking about that, I'm gone. That kind of an idea. I come from that, wearing the rose-colored glasses and looking at the world, thinking that everybody is really good inside and they all mean well. So I would like to think that if I said that is something that we could achieve together, because I'm assuming that you both want to talk to each other. You know what I mean? Like the sisters want to speak to each other. They don't want to not speak to each other. So, and I'm pretty certain that they don't think that they're on the wrong side, that you must be on the wrong side. Want to see my new cards? I haven't taken them out of the plastic yet, but I can show you the boxes. Oops. Yeah, there it is. The Guardian of the Night Tarot. So it's these are all little animals. It's animals. So I'm very excited about that. That was just released like July 5th. Then I got these guys here. The Soul Helper Oracle by Christine Arana Fader. Your sister had COVID for 3 days. Then I've got this one, Messages from the Spirit of Nature Oracle by Stephen Farmer. This just was released too. So those are my new ones. I haven't taken them out of the plastic yet. That seems odd, but I'm glad that she is okay. Or hopefully she's okay. Oh, friends, okay. I agree, Tammy. Just because your blood doesn't mean that you should take crap. It's always best in those types of situations because we've all been there. We've all experienced it with our own family in one form or another. You have to do what's best for you. And I'm sure that, I don't want to speak for everyone, but I'm pretty sure that I can speak for everyone and say that we've all been in a position where we don't want to make that choice. And so we understand why that wouldn't be your first decision. But do protect yourself by putting your boundaries up and not, you don't have to throw yourself at them. Do you know what I mean? And then you just sort of like take it from there. Ron says, I had family from the USA last weekend and I know they voted for 45. I was lucky they did not talk to us about politics or evangelists. 3 days was enough for me, right? Absolutely. Sounds like you had an okay weekend though, Ron. I'm glad that you had some family or some friends over. That sounds wonderful. You never take a break, so I think it's good that you did that. They are here to teach us lessons, learn it, and move on. Yep. All right, my friends, 1 hour and 58 minutes and a few seconds to go. I thank you kindly for joining me. Thank you for hanging out with me. Thank you for sharing and participating and lifting each other up. And don't forget our code word moving forward, hugs. And I can't thank you enough for all of your support. So I will be back tomorrow, 3 p.m. Eastern time on Heart and Soul Connected with Allie and Nancy Jean. If anyone is out and about. And I may or may not be on tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern time. If the notification comes out, you'll get it. And that's only just because I'm a little bit tuckered out. That's all. And then of course Sunday I'm back with Juno at 3 p.m. Eastern. So thank you everybody for hanging out with me. Thank you for this conversation. It was good. I think it was necessary, and I hope that you all walked away learning something. And if nothing else, we've got a new code. So I think that that's awesome. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Many, 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 many blessings to each and every one of you. And many hugs. Lots and lots and lots of hugs. Mwah! Blessings. Bye, everybody. Thank you so much. Good night, everybody.